everyone, and welcome to day 5 of the Living an Authentic Life Challenge. I am Tanya E. and today we will be having a discussion about family. So, before we begin this, let's go back to basics. The dictionary defines a family as a group of one or more parents and their children living together as a unit. The traditional definition of the American family is a nuclear family, which includes a husband, a wife, and children, and their extended relatives that typically live separate from them. In this definition, this is very uncommon in this day and age. We don't often see a nuclear family the way America defines it. And here's the thing about America. The United States is the #1 country with the most single-parent households, followed only by the United Kingdom, the country that the U.S. was birthed from. Think about that. This country, according to the 2020 Census Bureau, has over 18.5 million children that live with just their mother or their father. That's 1 in 5 children. Half of all the children born in the United States live with a single parent. That means that children born here are 3 times the number of children around the world that are living under similar arrangements. Families that are headed mostly with unwed mothers have a poverty rate of 31%. Those with unwed fathers fare just a little bit better. They have a poverty rate of 15%. But the lowest poverty rate is 5% with families that are headed by married couples. So that gives us some clear insight about how our economic situation and the family dynamic truly has an impact on how we're going to function. From this economic perspective, the breakdown of families has a direct correlation with what happens with the nation. We have been hearing so much about the next recession that's coming in America. To prevent these excessive financial breakdowns in this country, we've got to go back to the basics. We have to gain more insight about how to let the family be the dynamic that it's supposed to be, where there are 2 parents in a household that supports the emotional relationship, spiritual relationship, physical relationship, social relationship, those things that we typically have teenagers wanting to kill themselves or go through all the trauma, which is usually normal teenage stuff. Having all the various social things that we have, unfortunately, with shootings in schools, there's a breakdown. There's a breakdown that 2 parents are supposed to give. There's an element that a mother provides to her children. She gives them a sense of how to nurture, how to care, how to support. There's an element that a father brings to a household, showing a household how to be protected, how to protect. Because we have this breakdown happening in America, the well-being of our children are being adversely affected along with our economic structure. Because now with this information, it may sound strange coming from a woman I know. I'm divorced, but I'm also in a new marriage. So I have a clearer perspective about what that level of dysfunction looks like in both perspectives, because I watched how my children functioned when I was in a married environment. And I also watched how they functioned or lack of functioning, because my oldest had the biggest impact. He was about 9 years old when I got divorced. And as a result, seeing the dynamic where in his world at that time, his father and I were one of the few 2-parent households that he knew. And then for him to find himself in a space where he was no longer in that environment, not knowing how to maneuver through this new uncertain territory. Here's the thing that I learned a lot about that dysfunction in a single-parent household where you have to try to survive. When I had to do this on my own, I had to teach him and share him and show him how to do some stuff on his own, because he, unfortunately, would have to get home a little bit before I did. Now, there wasn't a big gap between the space, but depending on the traffic and depending on how soon the bus would drop them off, they would have to walk into the door 5 or 10 minutes before I did. So he had to be prepared to do that. He also had the responsibility of doing the care with his little brother. And in this nation, we have too many children that are walking in environments where they have to do that more and more, because a nation's identity and the ability to thrive is founded on how a family is doing. Now, there's this misconception in the US that most single parent households are headed by non-white families. But that, from a statistical standpoint, makes absolutely no sense in America. You see, in this country, 65% of the population are white Americans. Now, before people start calling me and saying that I'm using the wrong socially acceptable terms, I get it. But as I share this information I want to share with you, I'm sharing it from a perspective about being white, Black, or Latina, because those terms give you a clear perspective about what I'm talking about. And as I use those terms, you have true clarity of what they mean. Because white people make up most of the single parents in this country, followed by Black single mothers and then Hispanic single mothers. The ethnicity with the least number of single parents are Asians, because about 75% of their community are married. They have what is considered the nuclear dynamic. Now, with that, these numbers aren't surprising a lot because Black people only make up 13% of the US population. Hispanic and Latina make up 18%. Asian make up 6%. And Native Americans and Hawaiians only make up 0.3% of this entire country's population. As we walk through the view of what it looks like in America with the various elements of this poverty level and economic crisis that people feel are coming, then we need to make certain that our voices are heard. Because when society is in breakdown from a family dynamic, it's the government that stands in the gap for us. But we need to make certain that there are people there that can create a fair system of government to help rebuild the walls of brokenness financially and sometimes socially for a household. So this year, the United States is in the midterm elections. I want to encourage you to do your research. Research who it is in your environment that can be the best support system around you. I'm not talking about any particular political lines. It doesn't matter who you're voting for, but vote for somebody that you know is going to put your best interests in light. On top of the fact that for this election, when I was looking at my ballot, there are more social questions that are being asked. So pay attention, do your research, look at what you need, because this year is very impactful and it will take place to give a forefront of what will happen moving forward when we start electing a new official. Now, with all of that, how we deal with the economy, how we deal with us as a nation, all sits on the foundation of being a family. So for today, day 5, let's have an extended conversation. Join me on Zoom. You have the link if you are going to my website, TanyaEhood.com. There you can click for the registration link and join me for the extended conversation that I'll have with those in Zoom. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.